Dan Illman, Mike Beer, kicking off a 20-cent pick four at Woodbine Sunday with a nice stakes race. Race number 6 is the Pink Lloyd. $100,000 is the purse. This is for Ontario sired, going 3/4 of a mile. Let's take a look at this field. As you can see, it is a big field. It's a fairly wide open group with the horse on the far outside, the 13 Candy Overload, your 3-1 morning line favorite. Nice to see the beloved and talented Pink Lloyd have a race named in his honor.
Yeah, he deserved one for sure. We'll see if any of these horses can sort of live up to the name of this race. Dan Candy Overload. I think he's the horse to beat in here. I think it's pretty clear when you start taking his form apart. Not only does he just be the most talented horse in the race, he likes to sit back and make one run, and he might have something to run at here.
Perfect segue to our Timeform US pace projector. We throw it up. There's the red bar, fast pace. There's the LP designation over the 13 Chicklet. That is Candy Overload. The LP designation means he has the fastest late Timeform US pace rating, and that bodes well for him if this pace is fast. Reloads Rascal, flawless from 2 starts, up in class. He's going to the lead from the inside post. Different quality competition this time.
Feels like they have to come out of there running with him. We'll see how he handles the step up in class. Very lightly raced, forward to go for him. Rock Crest, the 9, though. It's a pretty fast horse, Dan, second off the little layoff here.
Let's watch Reloads Rascal's most recent start, making it 2 for 2 in his career. And he did some running in here. They went 22-1 for the opening quarter. They went 22-1 for the second quarter, and he still keeps on rolling along. Now, I know this is only a 2-life allowance, but he did show some speed and talent last year or two. He's now going to have to come off the layoff, but he's so lightly raced. I think we can still project upside. As you said, though, this is a giant jump up the class ladder.
Yeah, we'll see what he does here. I mean, obviously has made no mistakes so far. You know, listen, I can't say that I was blown away with either of his performances last year, but he won them both, and his connection's showing a little confidence here to bring him back off the layoff in this spot. I'm not going to bet him in here, Dan. Very interested to see what he does.
Last American Exit, the number 2, was claimed for $25,000 2 starts back. Here's his first start for the new connections. Coming off an October layoff. He had 1 start this year. He gets to the outside. It looks like he has a look at this thing in the stretch, and he's going to end up finishing a pretty good second with an 85 Beyer speed figure. So it looks like he's wintered well. He's come back nicely. He's just never been, in my opinion, a stakes horse up till now.
Yeah, fair to give him that one, I suppose, off the layoff there. But, boy, it really felt like he had a shot to win that thing. It just didn't seem like he was quite good enough. And, you know, I don't want to be too hard on him, Dan. He's going to be a big price if you like him, but I wouldn't bet him off of any of his other races.
Mason's Gamble, the number 3, is already a stakes winner against fellow Ontario breds who won the Ontario Jockey Club going 3/4 of a mile last spring. He has tactical speed and likes to be up close to the pace. I just wonder if the pace is going to be faster than what he's used to as he makes his first start of the year. Last time in the Kennedy Road, up close to a quick pace, retreated.
Yeah, didn't run that well in the Kennedy Road, but that was, you know, a race that went to closers. So maybe he had some kind of an excuse there. I don't know. I didn't love that race. Overall, didn't like his performance in it. He's faced several of these horses in the past, especially towards the end of last year, and he wasn't quite good enough.
Bossy Holiday is a stakes winner sprinting on the dirt at Fort Erie. He made his first start of the year last time out, and he just really didn't fire his best shot. Rockcrest was in there. The pace wasn't very fast. He was up close, and Rockcrest just sprinted away from him. So he's got to do better.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, I kept looking at that race thinking, you know what? He's off the layoff there. He's going 5.5, which just seems like it's probably a little too short for him. So maybe he had some kind of an excuse there, Dan, but he still just didn't really run that well. Maybe he really needed that start. I don't know. This is one of those races where I was just kind of trying to look for somebody at a big price that I could use. I really wanted it to be Bossy Holiday. I probably spent way too long trying to talk myself into him. And I ultimately couldn't get there. I mean, I could use him at a big price, but I wanted to like him more.
To me, the most fascinating entrant in the race is the lone mare. That's the number 5, Miss Speedy. This is a horse I think that just seems very well spotted against the Ontario sired competition. Here's her most recent race. This is the Grade 3 Whimsical in her first start of the year. She kind of broke in from the rail post position, settled in the pocket, and as you see right here, she just has nowhere to go. And she's just completely jammed up in behind horses. She's eventually going to find a seam. When she does get through, this odds-on winner is already long gone, but I like the way she finished up this race. And by virtue of being a mare against the boys, she's getting plenty of weight, even though I think she fits from a class standpoint.
I do too. It's not, I mean, she's a mare against the boys here. I don't think that's that big of a deal. She did run pretty well last time. I mean, it was against fillies and mares, but the horse that wanted her stablemate there, our Flash Drive, that horse is good, man. And listen, this horse got stalled in the upper stretch. I don't think she was winning anyway, but she wound up finishing a good second, and she's still lightly raced enough, Dan. I feel like there are ways to look at her and just feel like this is the right spot to run her in. Let's see what kind of price she is.
Poseidon Steel made a likable comeback, albeit against only open first level allowance competition. Let's watch that race. Going 5.5 furlongs, perhaps a little bit sharp for this horse. He's down inside the gray and the blue silks, and he's going to come with a solid run once clear to finish third, only beaten a length. The buyers are light recently. He has yet to run back to that 84 buyer in his debut, and he's going to have to run something more like that if he's going to contend.
Yeah, he is. And we'll see. I mean, this did kind of feel like a prep to me, though, Dan. First off, the layoff, they just saved a lot of ground. It took him a while to get going once he finally got out into the clear, but he ran at the end of that race. I think they were prepping him. We'll see how much he can improve because it's pretty clear based on his PPs. He's got to improve.
Commander Joe, the number 7, closed out his 2022 with a victory sprinting at Woodbine. He has raced already twice this year. He was entered for a tag both times, and he just hasn't run back to par.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the horses in here who doesn't really have that one race you could point to and say, well, you know what, if he runs that one, he could be pretty tough in here. He did win his final start last year back in October. It was against a weaker field. He got a good trip in that race. He still didn't run fast enough to be competitive here.
I think the 9 Secret Reserve is a sleeper in this race because he has plenty of back races, including that win in last summer's Grade 3 Bold Venture, sprinting at Woodbine. Now, last time out, he was beaten by Rockcrest. It was his first start off of the short layoff, and he was pushing that slow pace while outside. And once Rockcrest sprinted on home, Secret Reserve couldn't get there. I think it was a very useful prep. I like his outside post. I like his tactical speed. I think it can work out a decent trip.
He makes a lot of sense in this race, and it also kind of feels like he's going to be a fair price in here, even though he just looks really competitive on paper, Dan. He also, I think, has the right running style for this race because he doesn't have a ton of speed. He's not going to be part of this pace, but he's not going to be as far away as Candy Overload is. And Candy Overload, he already beat this horse last year, and he did it by getting a better trip than that horse did in the Bold Venture last year.
Rockcrest, the number 9, is a very underrated speedball. He finished second at a big price in the Vigil, going 3/4 of a mile on the synthetic 3 starts back. Not interested in the turf race at Tampa Bay Downs over the winter. Here was his seasonal debut at Woodbine, and the connections had to be very pleased when he cleared off to the lead, and he only had to go 23-1 to do so because he's able to sprint home and hold off this favorite, who's a pretty nice horse, Filo di Ariana. Rockcrest just had a better trip. Now, he's going to show speed in here. This race we're showing is at 5.5, 6 with a fast race flow against tougher horses. At 4-1, he's got to prove it.
It's one of the things that I didn't like about him too. I'm with you. I don't think I would take a short price on him. He ran fine, looked good winning that race last time. There's a win all the way back when he was a 2-year-old where he did win at 6.5, Dan, but all 4 of his other wins are 5 or 5.5 furlong races. In a race like this with other speed to contend with, I wanted other horses.
The 10 Dundrum is a horse that's really hoping for a very fast pace. Not only is his first start of the year, they're starting him back sprinting. To me, he's more of a 2-turn middle distance horse, and I just wonder if this is a prep for something else down the road.
I looked at him that way too. And listen, maybe we're discounting him because he is a horse who actually feels like if he, gets the right race flow here and is ready, at least somewhat ready off the left, maybe he could make a run into this race. He's not a bad horse. I thought maybe this was just a jumping off point.
Third start of the form cycle for another big price. That's the 11 Makwa, 20-1 on the morning line. Horse showed improved speed in his second start back, and then he got tired. It's another situation, however, where he's spent most of his career in the allowance ranks. Now he's facing tougher horses, and he needs a lifetime best.
Yeah, he's also, a lot of his good races anyway, when they let him use his speed and be part of that pace. That's not going to work out for him here, and he's already in tough anyway.
I wanted to make a case for the 12 Forester's Fortune because he was in that slow-paced race last time out, and he tried to rally from out of it. It just didn't work out in his first start back. But just looking back at some of his races, some of his PPs, I think he just might be better on the turf.
I looked at him the same way. I think he is better on the grass. He didn't run poorly at all last time, though, Dan. They're going to take a little bit of a shot here. A horse who's going to be a big price in this race, and he will have pace this time.
Candy Overload won the Kennedy Road, a graded stakes race sprinting last year. I like that they wintered him at Turfway Park, where he was very competitive against Open Company over their all-weather surface. Last time out in the Jacques Cartier, he just didn't really catch a race with any kind of pace. He was sort of last on the outside on the turn, hard-ridden, widest in the stretch. He stayed on from a class and speed figure standpoint. He looks like the horse to beat.
Yeah, he is the horse to beat in this race. I mean, again, I spent a lot of time looking at this race, just sort of looking for alternatives because, while I do think he's the horse to beat in here, I didn't think he necessarily had to win. I did think he ran fine last time, though. That race didn't set up that great for him. And he was running on at the end of that race. He was closest at the finish and gaining ground. So that feels like a good prep, a good return to Woodbine for him. His good race makes him super tough in here. He's supposed to have pace to run at. He just needs a trip.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Pink Lloyd. It's a wide open race. Mike's going with Candy Overload. That horse is the horse to beat. I picked him third. I'm going to go with the mare, Miss Speedy. I think that last race was a good starting off point for her, where she was in behind. She split. She faced a good horse that I think would be very competitive against this field. And I think her running style fits as well. It's not like she's some speedball that has to be up close to the pace.
I got her in there too, Dan. I'm not way against that horse. I just ultimately, like I said, I feel like I spent way too much time looking at the race. I ultimately chalked it out because I just couldn't really find anybody else that I really wanted to bet against Candy Overload with. I thought about Secret Reserve. I think he'll be competitive in here. I took the 13.
13-8-4-5 for Mike, 5-9, 13-8 for me. It's the Pink Lloyd, one of two nice stakes races at Woodbine on Sunday. Best of luck.